Alright, so good day, Eratosthenes, and hopefully you are able to get access to the lesson prior to this one. Okay, so the freedom and obligation, or freedom and responsibility. Okay, so let me just check if the audio is working properly. Yeah, and I guess I have started sharing. Well, I'm not actually using my DepedQC account, so I am only recording this lesson using my desktop screen recorder. Okay, so this discussion will really be a short one, so be patient and watch, or just listen till the end. Alright, so to get started, let me ask you if you can still somehow recall your lesson in oral communication. Oh, well, don't be confused. This is still philosophy. Well, it's specifically the speech context. Well, as classified, there are 4 contexts in the communication. So that's intrapersonal, interpersonal, public, and mass communication. Now, how is that related in a way with our topic today? Intersubjectivity. Okay, so this is actually a one word, but in my presentation, I actually separated the word inter to subjectivity. But this is really a one word, intersubjectivity. Well, you might notice that the word interpersonal and intersubjectivity have something literally in common. So, do you notice? Interpersonal, intersubjectivity. Maybe just look at the word. You may spell it out so you can see through it. Alright, so the key word there is the word inter. Okay, now in your oral communication, how is interpersonal communication is defined? Well, just take your time, think of its definition, try to somehow recall. Well, probably interpersonal communication is the interaction between and among individuals or groups. And the very same principle is actually applied in intersubjectivity. Okay? Now, how do we define intersubjectivity as one of the philosophical concept of human person or human being? So let's see. Let's move. Right. So can you please read silently? Alright. So according to the definition, intersubjectivity is a word, coined from the prefix inter, which connotes among and between, and the philosophical term quote-unquote subject, that is equivalent to a conscious being. Thus, intersubjectivity would mean in the general sense as quote-unquote sharing of subject states by 2 or more individuals. So in relation to that, you may find verses, especially to those religious ones. You may find verses from Bible or scripture, or maybe a biography or memoir, or some fictional works where it features life of people who can very well live alone for different reasons. Well, I do not know if you can do it or if you know someone who does. Okay, but still, despite knowing or despite the fact that those people can actually survive on their own, they still opt to go out and interact with others to really, quote unquote, live and experience the world. So in oral communication, interpersonal communication gives us the idea, okay, that a person must form a connection or relationship with, quote unquote, others. Okay, so in order for him or for her, or really for that person to interact or to get the real meaning of the word interaction. However, this is not oral communication. So this is philosophy. Okay? And the problem there is the way how we understand or we see the word others. So it is not clear, no, in, let's say, in a language based definition, if that others, okay, pertain to a person alone or maybe to any other thing by which interaction or communication is possible. For example, your pet, your doll, your phone, your book, your diary, or maybe Siri. So those things, those examples are things that you can actually, as a person, interact with. You can form a connection or communication with those. Now, if that is the case, then this is where the difference between interpersonal and intersubjectivity will come in. Okay? Because intersubjectivity, okay, on the other hand, is very much clear on its stand that it is an organic union. Okay, remember in your lesson, in human person and embodied spirit, okay, it's about the soul or the spirit and then the body. Okay, they have their organic or natural union. They are bound to bind together. Okay, and they are inseparable. They should not, you cannot treat a human being as a human being if that human being does not have a soul. Just the same, if the body is not there, then you cannot literally say that that person is still the same human being that you treat him or her when it's still alive. Okay, so going back, intersubjectivity is an organic union of our subjective, please take note of that, subjective and objective reality. So we may say that subjective refers to us, human being. Okay, so you have to be careful. It's human being. Because in our, if you're going to look at the definition of terms in philosophy, human and human being are different. Okay? Excuse me. And of course, objective. So the objective here is the reality of world where others exist. And this existence is something that we also share or experience as a subject. Okay? So in other words, intersubjectivity only adheres to human beings' personhood and of course human nature. So you may for com section, you may look at my presentation before if you have forgotten the definition of human being, personhood, and human nature. Okay, so something, and this very idea is the concept that separate us, human being, from others. And that others may refer to, again, object or animals. Okay, so of course here, so nobody owned this quote, I just have put it there. So we may survive as an individual, but we still need others to fully live in this world. In order for us to seize the day, no, we have to at least form a connection with others. And that others is not just simply an object or an animals, okay, but a subject that we can relate to, because that human being, you, I, and that human being share something in common, okay, and that is of course the objective reality. So let's see how some philosophers define intersubjectivity. Okay, so you may read the definition silently. So the first definition comes from Confucius. I hope you are familiar with Confucianism. Okay, China, definitely. So you've studied Confucius in your Afro-Asian literature, in your Asian history, and of course in philosophy as well. Okay, so according to Confucius, okay, intersubjectivity, let me just read the definition. So Confucius stresses order and harmony in the world. So his aims can be achieved through practical, concrete, particular, and perceptual ways. So this means Confucian thinking, or maybe let's say the Confucianism in general, okay, on intersubjectivity is practical humanism. So there is an emphasis on human actions in sociality. It's not society, it's sociality. It's like more of interaction. Okay, so he calls every man to love the other through actions and not through thoughts. Okay, so in this juncture, Confucius see let's say intersubjectivity is seen by Confucius through human action. So if you are familiar, which I'm not sure if you are, okay, if you are familiar, but you may actually search for it, with the Analects of Confucius, it is a long text or lecture that helps Confucius disciples understand the world by adhering to it, etiquette, proper behavior, things that you have to know when you are with your family, with your friends, when you're working in the government, something like that. So it talks about etiquette and proper behavior in different aspects of life. So it focuses on what they call Ren, or human-heartedness. So Confucianism, or this Confucian thinking, in a nutshell, is virtues-centered. So if you remember the 8 pathfold of Buddha, or of that Buddhist or Buddhism belief, so it's almost the same thing. No, it teaches how to live a peaceful life along with others. Okay, so I hope that is clear. Next, we have the definition of Martin Buber. Okay, so now according to Martin Buber, the I thou, well, I'm not sure if that's Buber or Bobber, but anyway, I guess anything works. No. Okay, the I-thou relationship, okay, embodies intersubjectivity as treatment to another person as subject. So we have there the word subject. Okay? So a being, okay, a being different from things or objects. So meaning to say the term subject there is something that is not an object or not even a thing, because it practically refers to a person, like us, like me, like you. Okay, so I refers to the self, obviously, and thou or you, so it's an Old English, refers to others. So the I is the same with the thou, and there should be mutual relationship between them. So we can only recognize the self in the context of the other. So yeah, by the way, Martin Buber, yeah, I think, okay, is a Jewish philosopher. Okay, so in this part of his definition, he mentioned that I-thou relationship embodies intersubjectivity as treatment to another person as subject. Well, it only means that person is not inanimate. Obviously, okay, person is not an inanimate object to be used. So he or she has his or her own mind and free will. So free will, freedom, those two were discussed in the topic that I gave to your classmates. Now, freedom and responsibility. So maybe we can use this hugot, because I've seen this one everywhere before. No, it goes like this: babae yan, hindi Barbie, na pwede mong paglaruan at kung sawa ka na ay itatapon na lang. Okay, so again, babae yan, hindi Barbie, na pwede mong paglaruan at kung sawa ka na ay itatapon na lang. So that particular hugot, or say line, no, only shows that human being, let's say men in general, well, I do not impose sexism here, okay? So again, that particular line shows that human being applies, or I mean human being, men in general specifically, applies or has the capacity to do the very same thing that only, quote unquote, only appropriate for inanimate things, no, to women. So the treatment that a person gives to a doll is also being applied to woman or to women in general. So in this philosophy of Martin Buber, okay, a person should not be treated equal or the same with an object, okay, because subject is pretty much literally different from an object. Okay, so well, anyhow, let me clarify this part as well of the definition. So I here refers to the self, and thou, you, or the others, and the I is the same with thou, and there should be mutual relationship between them. You can only recognize the self in the context of other. Okay, if so, this part is still it was discussed in the human person as embodied spirit. So remember, Saint Thomas Aquinas has this five-fold of truth or argument. So especially in the argument of design. Okay, so it was mentioned there, or that particular part of, what was that? Okay, so that particular part of argument of St. Thomas Aquinas in proving, of course, the existence of God, okay, mentioned that we can only compare and contrast something on how we can only compare and contrast something if, so there's a condition, if in the first place we have our initial basis which set forth the standard on how we can see something as ugly, maybe less beautiful, or to an extreme measure, perfect. Okay, so we can only determine our life as worthless or somehow successful if we're going to compare it with others' life as our basis. So I guess with this you can recall that distinguishing factor of intersubjectivity from interpersonal is the view about others and how we can relate or connect with it or with them. Okay, so I hope you understand the point of Martin Buber. Okay, next we have Karol Wojtyla. So Karol Wojtyla is he's a Polish, so probably he lived in Poland. And Karol Wojtyla is actually Pope John Paul II. Okay, so but since we are talking about philosophy and not theology, then let's use the name of Pope John Paul, his original name, which is Karol Wojtyla. Okay, so how did the late Pope, or how did Wojtyla define or say seen intersubjectivity? So you may read the definition silently. So for him, human action is the foundation of our being, which also directed towards others. So this form of action is now called participation. Okay, so you have to take note of this. So most of the time, as human being is shortened or referred to as being alone. Okay, so again, if our action is directed toward others, meaning to say there is this certain goal or certain direction by which the things that we do is done on that particular purpose, and that is to somehow to maybe to form a connection with others, to connect with them, or to get their attention. Okay, and that kind of getting the attention, being connected with them, is what we call participation. So in the theory of participation, man has the capacity to share himself to others, and this affirms that the reality of man acts and exists with others. So meaning to say, though you have your free will, you have your, you do things logically, you do things by reason or by not reason at all, still you perform such thing because it give you the opportunity to actually coexist with someone who maybe share the same thing or may not share the same thing with you, but still you belong to the same category, and somehow, though you do not have similarity on that particular time, there is an existing and innate similarities that the two of you share. Okay, now Here, being is a member of the community of person, of community of me, or let's say I, as used in the previous definition. So there is a community of I and you, and since more than one is already plural, so we refer to that as we, or Carol Wojtyla referred to the I you concept as we. Okay, yeah, the I you or the I thou of Martin Buber. Okay, now in this juncture, do you think what you do in your day-to-day activities is an interpersonal activity or intersubjectivity, or maybe both? What do you think? Okay, so I think we have 2 more slides. Yeah, okay. So in this part, let's try to be more specific as how subject. So let's try to replace the term subject or human being as man. Okay. Okay. So we have here Martin Heidegger, and he actually brought the concept of man or subject as being in the world. Okay, so it was mentioned, so we just recently done with Carol Wojtyla, but let me just go back a bit now about what he taught us. So it was mentioned by Carol Wojtyla that our actions, okay, are the pillars of being human. So therefore, the purpose and manner of doing it are the factors that separate us from others, because it aligns with, with reasons, with logic, by which animals and objects do not exercise. So maybe others, especially animal lovers, would argue, ano? So, ibig sabihin mo, hindi po nag-iisip yung mga hayop? Well, I'm not saying that animals are not actually thinking, but most experts, okay, psychologists, linguists, okay, argue that animals do not literally think the way how human does. Okay? When they react, it's only part of their instinct. When they do something, it's only part of conditioning. Okay? Therefore, animals cannot be categorized or cannot be simply conclude, no, that it acts or it exercises, animals exercise reason and somehow logic in the things that they do. Okay, so but anyway, it's up to you if you're going to believe or not. You may do research on that. Okay, so man as being in the world, according to Martin Heidegger rather, refers to human person who is not a spiritual thing misplaced. So please take note of the thing misplaced. So this is kind of sarcasm for me. Okay, again, a spiritual thing misplaced into a space, because humans' reality is to perform undertakings. And what is these undertakings? Well, these are the things that we do: interrogate, greet, answers question, ask questions, eat, cry, But of course, if we're going to really look at the term undertakings, it's more of action with a specific purpose. Okay, not action because it is systematized or part of your natural day-to-day things or routine. It's not. Okay, it's more purposive. It's more specific, and it's more selective in the event or situation where it should or it must be done. Okay, so many philosophers believe that spirit or soul and body are, inseparable. So we have the idea of Aristotle. Okay, so it's the human itself is a byproduct of spirit and soul, and you cannot consider human being without taking into account each one. Okay, so that again, philosophers believe that spirit or soul and body are inseparable forms that, well, in themselves have potential life that makes soul and body as one. So a single entity that experiences and explores the world. So actually, the idea is in the name itself, being in the world, or let's just add something, being part of the world. Okay, so and of course we have the last one. So nakaka 31 minutes na pala tayo. Time check lang. Okay, so I think we'll be over with by 35 minutes. So man as being for others. So Jean-Paul Sartre but you could also read that one as Jean-Paul Sartre, okay, whichever you prefer. Okay, so Jean-Paul Sartre define or see man as being for others. So it now mentions here the term others. So it's more like the concept of I thou of Martin Buber. So I experiences. So do not be too grammar Nazi in this part. You may say, ma'am, di ba dapat experience? Okay, so we do not really take the pronoun I. So we look at the speaker as a single, okay, as a single narrator here, or a single entity that explains what is man as seen by Jean-Paul Sartre. So I experiences the self, or of course that self is revealed through the others as a look. So actually this part this is kind of complicated, but we have to understand first its a root. Okay, what does Sartre means by others as a look? Okay, aside from the I thou of Martin Buber, well, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but probably my students are actually familiar with self-concept and self-awareness. Okay, so self-concept is seeing yourself as you, while self-awareness is seeing yourself by how others do it. Okay, so it's like looking at the mirror. Self-concept, if we're going to analogically compare it with looking at the mirror, it is what it is. It is what you see. It is what your naked eye see. On the other hand, self-awareness is looking at the mirror, but then instead of focusing on what your eyes literally see on that mirror, you see the perspective of how you think others see you. Okay? So, naturally, you can actually see or treat yourself, excuse me, no, with all the things that you can think of. Like, maganda ako. Pwede maganda ako. Pangit ako. Well, edi pangit ako. Because that is my own idea. That is my self-concept. Okay? And by exercising self-concept, you are also practically applying freedom. However, the moment that you quote-unquote look at others and immediately think of something different from what that person really is. So, itong part na from what that person really is, yun po yung self-concept. And then, itong part na, ano ba sinabi ko? The moment, okay, you look at others and then quickly think of something different, that is self-awareness. Or that is, of course, judgment. Parang ganun. Okay? So, again, ano nga ba yun? Kalimutan ko tuloy. Yeah. So, and when you think of something, or when you say, when you voice out, when you express something different from what that person really is, you are actually objectifying that person, and therefore removing all possibilities that that person wants him or her to be. So, you, in a way, you are limiting a person's possibilities and potentials by a look. So that is how the term look is used in this definition. So this quote unquote look, this part, no, others as a look. So this look in a layman's term, I think I mentioned this one already. So we can call it, prejudice, judgment, or simply bias. So, if we're going to look now at the definition of Sartre, he tried to argue that human person has many possibilities, but when you begin to start labeling or to do stereotyping, okay, you are taking away the freedom from that person, from that person, the kind of an individual that he or she wants to become. So this look, this quote-unquote look, looking at others, may not entail actual interaction, though of course intersubjectivity would stand or would be firm with the idea that interaction, there should be really an interaction between and among people, so that interaction will be really meaningful or significant, will have an impact. Okay, so again, the things that I mentioned, this, especially this looking thing of Sartre, okay, may not entail actual interaction and participation, but just the same as human being only looks at subject that you see relatable. You as human being only looks at subject that you see relatable, may it be good or bad. Okay? So, did you get it? Nagets ba yung last part na sinabi ko? Para medyo naguluhan din ako. Okay, I mean, so, sige, ulitin natin. Okay, so this may, I mean, the example of surgery, the part where you look at that person and then you remove the possibility of that person, it's more like, sige, let's cite an example. Well, during our online class, so definitely, the one who start the lesson would be labeled as teacher, and all others will be labeled as student. But despite those labels, you have all the possibilities to be called. You are not just simply a student. You could be a cook. You could be a worker. You could be a listener. You could be a procrastinator. You could be a mother. You could be a sister. You could be a brother. Okay? So, in that part, when you actually look at someone and you start giving a specific label by which that label is something that that person does, that see him or see her as something that you perceive him or her to be, then you are again removing the freedom of possibilities of that person. You are already judging. You are already giving your prejudice or prejudices to that person, and by that it may affect the way how you can communicate or interact or apply intersubjectivity with that particular person. So you should stop that. But of course, it will also save you in different circumstances. Okay, so I hope you learned something from this lesson. So it's already 42 minutes on my clock. Okay, so good luck on your examinations on Friday, Eratosthenes and Comte. So this is Miss J. Marie Montederamos Reyes signing off. I hope you'll be able to watch or listen to this discussion from the beginning up until then. Bye. Thank you.